here. So welcome. This is our first Leadership Meetup of 2022. And I believe, I forgot the count, Steve, how many we've done prior, but I think we're 10 or 13 deep in these Leadership Meetups. So we meet every first and third Tuesday of each month. And then we'll record these meetings, and then we'll publish these meeting recordings in your member dashboard under administrator and under Leadership Meetup archive. So you guys will have access to these videos anytime you want, anytime you need to log in under the member dashboard, you guys could do that. We also have them published on YouTube and on our YouTube channel, Coach Baseball Right. So thanks for staying here and coming with us tonight. Tonight's topic is something that Steve and I kind of started talking about earlier today. It's an ongoing conversation, is really parents, but most importantly, parents and how they influence umpiring and how they also affect coaches and coach recruiting. So, Steve, is there something you kind of want to start us off with? In terms of parent expectations and parent standards and how they affect umpires and coaching.
Yeah, so let me just pick up just one point though. Hey guys, the reason why we really want these recordings to be available to you is some of you have suggested to us after we've met that there have been some discussions here that you wish somebody from your organization would have been part of. Well, by having them recorded like this, you can take this recording and bring it to a member of your organization, and maybe that'll be the impetus to help that person at least begin to think about some of the things that you might think would be important as far as, changing your organization's culture or what have you. So that's why they're important. As far as tonight, parents and umpires and coaches, it all intermingles here, right? And if I had to say that, what's the obvious problem? Well, we all know that there's a shortage of officials, right, across the country and all sports. And you can't blame guys for wanting to do this, guys or girls for not wanting to officiate anymore because of what we let parents get away with during the course of games. And parents make life miserable for their kids as their kids go home sometimes in the car. And parents are difficult for coaches. Is that if you're a coach and for your kids, then you realize, the parent issues, Jesus, I just don't want to get involved because, a lot of these guys don't feel they're equipped with the resources to even get started. And that's where we come in. We come in with obviously those resources to help that guy get started. But we also are trying to help organizations redevelop and maybe change their culture. So here's just an idea we were kind of bumming around with this morning. We've seen it on the high school level. Parents, they're in the wrong place during the sporting event. They open their mouths too much. And I have to tell you, I've never met a parent that if I sat down with them beforehand and laid out the expectations, they couldn't follow it. So have a parent meeting, hang out expectations of what their proper behavior at the game is, like zero comments on officiating, zero comments on coaching, zero. Now, the problem with this is who's going to enforce it, right? So at the high school level, we're lucky. We're able to hire policemen and things like that. And, all you have to do is get the policeman come over, and the first time, the parent goes, and the time the parent is done, they are done. They are not welcome to come anymore into the game. And I think if we just change the culture, if you change the culture, you change the expectations right from the get-go, and you become the organization that doesn't tolerate it, I think it's a lot nicer experience for other parents who are really nice for your coaches, for your kids, and maybe you got umpires that might want to come over to your organization and actually
Steve, I think
there's not for your option. Takes a. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
So yeah, sorry, Steve. Did anybody else get Steve lost on that one? Okay,
me.
Steve, could you repeat that point you cut out?
Which point? Which one?
Getting umpires to come over.
So, umpires, like in St. Louis, we have several organizations, right? I mean, Afton, Baldwin, Ellisville, Chesterfield. And there's a lot of guys that actually want to umpire, but they don't want to put up with the crap. If you're the organization that says, hey, we're not tolerating it, well, you're the organization where umpires want to go to. Because it'll be a much nicer experience for them. If you're the organization that lets the parents run rampant and there's no support, guys won't want to work there. So I think really all this comes down to expectations and consequences. Expectations and consequences. And, I'm going to be honest with you guys. If you want to talk.
Hey, Steve, can you turn off your video? Maybe that'll help the internet connection here.
Aren't there?
There we go.
Okay. So anyway,
right,
guys, it's about expectations and consequences.
So James, Phil, Eric, I know you've got plenty of experience with parents and coaches dealing with greater Midwest baseball tournaments, across the Midwest. Phil, James, Eric, do you guys have what are some of the obstacles you're seeing in your perspective, in your shoes on setting expectations, setting standards for parents, and then consequences?
Well, Tommy, I'm too removed, right? Because I'm only dealing with the coaches.
Right.
Coaches are dealing with the parents. We have in our rules, we have in our policies. I'm kind of like Steve. Steve, I guess I'm assuming you can still hear us. We just can't see you. We've just kind of reached a point where it's got to be zero tolerance. I mean, but when we're running 7 fields at Ellisville and I got 1 or 2 site directors, if I'm lucky, we don't always see it, right? It's secondhand news. And by the time you get there, if you don't see it, you really can't enforce it. So it has to be that coach that enforces it. And that coach may or may not enforce it because that dad's kid may be his best player, right? So it just all kinds of factors that go into it. You got the clubs and it's business. Everything is business with youth sports. They don't want to tick anybody off like us all because they might walk away. So it's just a lot of factors that go into it. But if we see it, either me or one of my site directors, you're done, you're gone, zero tolerance. Everything Steve said about umpires is correct. We ran somewhere between 8,000 and 9,000 games last year, and maybe only ran about 20 with one umpire. So we did really well as compared to the shortage that Steve is talking about. But in each communication I put out to the coaches, I let them know that there's a possibility that there's only going to be one umpire. Now, I know in a lot of markets you only get one umpire. It's just kind of standard, but that's not the way we do things. And I happened to be at the park where there happened to be one umpire because guy didn't show up, he got sick or bailed or whatever. And there's a dad that just got in my face about it. And I walked right over to the coach and said, Coach, you knew this. This is your parent. You obviously didn't explain to him that there was a chance that you were going to run this game with one umpire. In fact, he could have even dropped out of the tournament at a full refund. I gave him that option. And I said, this guy's done, and he's never coming back. But I happen to be there. I happen to see it, but you're not always going to see it. And if coach is coaching a game, he's not going to see it either. He has to set the expectation prior to the game starting, you know, and it's in our rules and our policies and all that, but it's hard to enforce. It's really hard to enforce.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, you want the kid to play, right? And the kid probably not going to play if the old man can't be there watching him or can't bring him to the game. So it's kind of a catch-22.
Yeah.
Now, you know, the clubs and the teams have the luxury. They can cut that kid for the next year. And a lot of times they're, you know, kids are getting cut because they're sick, coach, club, or whatever, sick of dealing with the parents. But it's crazy. I mean, I could show you a picture of a mom at a trophy presentation flipping the opposing team off that won the tournament. It's just flat out crazy.
Yeah.
But it's just something we all have to address. And I agree with Steve. You got to address it prior. You got to set the expectations. And the clubs in St. Louis, some are good at it, some are not very good at it.
Yeah. Phil, James, anything from your guys' perspective?
Some of the stuff I come across last fall is I was new to this organization in the fall. The tournaments we went to, it's the coaches that don't enforce it, and they let things get too far. They know what's going on in the stands. There was a parent fight at the tournament, and you know, that's just insane. And he could have stopped it well before it got to that point. But I think a lot of people, when it comes down to selecting coaches, that they don't like dealing with confrontation, and that, I think that is a big issue when it comes to coaches. Finding those coaches that can step up and deal with that stuff right, you know, before it happens or right as it's happening. And like you guys are saying, make sure it's so clearly presented in your rules of conduct and enforced. So yeah, coaching is, you got to get those right. You got to get the right ones, but it's tough. So,
Phil, what organization are you with?
Rebels baseball, based out of Toledo, Illinois. It's a little bitty town on Interstate 70, close to Effingham. So we're near the middle of the state. Yeah.
Are you familiar with GMB, our tournaments?
Yes. I went to my youngest son was invited to the elite games in Chesterfield last year.
Oh, nice.
And that was awesome. And
I
we are playing, my 15-year-old team. We're going to at least 3 GMB tournaments. I just registered the other day.
Good.
For next summer. Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you. I actually heard through the grapevine at Effingham's building a complex.
No, it's Mattoon.
Mattoon.
Just north of Effingham. Yeah. They actually asked our organization if we wanted kind of a piece of that. We're iffy on that because it's not too far from our little town. So we will probably play there quite a bit. The new complex in Rantoul, Illinois, north of Champaign there. I think most of that's rock tournaments. But yeah, I've been very impressed with GMB stuff since last fall. That's our first exposure to it. So
yeah. What's the team name?
Just Rebels, or just the Rebels.
Gotcha.
We have 10 teams from 7U to 17U. And we have a gap. We don't have a 13 and 14U. We
appreciate it. Yeah, come and see us. Rantoul, I was up there for the first time about 3 weeks ago. It's really nice.
Yeah, we played 3 tournaments in the fall ball, and I think 2, maybe all of them were up there. We were up there 3 or 4 times in the fall tournament, or our fall season.
James, anything to add? Yeah, go on.
Yeah, sure. Well, first of all, I'm originally from Champaign, so it's good to hear some guys from my old stomping grounds on the call. So I actually miss Central Illinois quite a bit. So good to talk to everyone. Even if your Cardinal fans are on the call as well. I'm a Cub fan, so had to throw that out there. But anyway, back to the topic at hand. There's a couple of ways that I address this issue. So we have, obviously, probably like a lot of organizations, we have parent meeting at the beginning of the season. So in the fall, when we kind of reset our roster, we go through that whole process, make sure the parents and players understand what's acceptable behavior. And even in the, I'll use, finger air quotes or whatever, but, the agreement that the player and the parent sign, there's some expectations on behavior and things like that. And being disruptive in a game, arguing with umpires, I would imagine fighting other parents in the stands. That's actually grounds for a player and family to be removed from the organization. So we kind of lay that out right at the forefront. And I think too, just with around Kalamazoo, there's probably, I don't know, 15 or 20 different travel teams of, organizations of different sizes. And I mean, if you're around it for a while, you kind of understand, which families tend to cause trouble, which bounce around from team to team, and the reasons why. So I think, unfortunately for the kid, I think a lot of us kind of avoid some of the parents to begin with, but, because word gets around. But anyway, we do establish expectations through parent meeting, through discussions throughout the season. And I think just demonstrating during tournaments how I manage the team and how I interact with the umpires. And I don't argue with them, although I have before when they have flat out screwed something up and didn't correct it. So I've been guilty of getting upset on the field, but that's my job, to go to bat for my players, to discuss those issues with the umpires in a respectful manner. And so I think I just try to establish how we're going to operate through those meetings, as well as just demonstrate that on the field. One kind of example of a situation, we had a terrible call at the plate. It was a call at the plate that kind of ended the game on that blown call. I think after a while after the event, the umpire admitted that he blew the call. After the dust settled, he realized that the player had actually dropped the ball, and our base runner should have been safe at home. Would have been a different outcome probably for the game. But anyway, my point is that he made the call, and I had a couple of assistant coaches that were pretty upset, yelling and screaming. I had families on the fence yelling at the umpire, and rather than consoling the players and kind of being there for the players, I had to calm everyone down. And I immediately let them know that that wasn't acceptable, and tried to just calm everyone, which is really unfortunate, because at that point in time, the players need their coach, right? They need just to manage the game and the end of the game, and a tough loss on something like that. But the umpire actually came up to me, and we talked about it after the game, and he thanked me for trying to for addressing the situation with the parents and stepping in there and making sure that nothing got out of hand. And I don't know that it would have gotten any worse than just yelling and screaming at him, but still, he acknowledged the fact that I tried to maintain some level of composure for our families and for our team and organization. So I think that's the biggest thing, is just continuously talking about those things, letting parents know that it's not okay for them to coach in any way from the stands. They can't argue with the umpire. They don't need to make comments. If they have any questions, if they see something, they can come and talk to me or mention it to one of the coaches. Even approaching the dugout if they see something, if they have a question about something, whatever, address that with me, address that with one of the assistant coaches, but in no way should they be interacting with the umpires. And the players know if they're going to interact with the umpires, it's always respectfully. There's no arguing. You can ask questions but in a respectful way. So I think just establishing expectations, let them know what the repercussions are if they're not handling themselves properly, and we're just not going to tolerate it. So we're pretty clear about that. We're pretty, not only in my team but throughout the entire organization. We have teams from seniors in high school all the way down to 8 and 9-year-olds. So we try to drive that as an organization, and we want to be known for carrying ourselves that way. So.
That's good. Thanks, James. Steve, anything? Eric, Phil, anything else? Any other things you guys want to talk about? We're approaching 8:30 here. Just a couple of things here at the end, and then go from there.
I just want to reiterate, I like what the guys were talking about as far as expectations, clear, concise expectations, and consequences. If we have those two things going, we've got a shot.
Yeah, that's good. And one of the things that we have in our member dashboard, I'll email this to you guys as well, but it's located under member dashboard in both the coach section as well as the administrator section. Steve and I've created a parent letter template. My hope, please download it. Like I said, I'll email it to you. You have access to it in the member dashboard for both free accounts as well as pro member accounts. But download it, tweak it, add to it, change it, but use it, right? And that's an easy way to set expectations for your team. Forward it to your administrator. Tell him or her to adopt it league wide or club wide. One of the things that I like to do too is with Team Snap is every game that is scheduled on Team Snap or whatever software or third-party app you use, making sure that each game has a reminder. What is the tolerance level? What zero tolerance of arguing officiating. Maybe make a positive tip. What we do positively is we also applaud the other team for making great plays, right? We also applaud the umpire right at the end, or whatever. Just trying to establish an expectation and a standard that develops a positive growth kind of growth mindset. So we'll have this recording up momentarily in the next 10 or so minutes. I'll get that started and processed. But Phil, Eric, James, thanks for coming. Is there anything you guys want to sign off with, or any other questions for Steve and I before we close this out?
The only thing I have is when it comes to umpires work, this fall on Facebook, a Central Illinois Umpires and Officials Facebook page. And we were able to find, and I know other tournaments were able to find a lot of last minute substitutes. So that was really a good tool. It's a closed site, so you have to ask be approved to be on it. But I wanted to throw that out there.
That's a great tip.
It's the best part of these meetings is when guys share ideas like that, Tom. So
yeah, no doubt. It's fun.
Phil and James and Eric, thank you for sharing.
Yeah, no doubt. All right, guys. Our next leadership meetup will be January 18th. We'll send that email out just like what we normally do. Same Zoom link. You guys, Phil, this is your second meetup in a row, so hopefully we get to see you again. James, hope to see you too. Eric, you're always welcome. You know that, and I hope to see you as well. So, guys, stay warm and stay healthy.
Take care.
Take care, fellas. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah.
Take care.
Thanks, guys.